Welcome to the system. I am an architect. Where others see problems, I see the system. A child looked just a few seconds longer. The video ended. The next video was waiting for him. One more, then another. The first image was harmless. The second one was harsher. The third one was a little stranger. Before long, the child was walking through a world he'd never sought out. People call this a choice. Sometimes they're wrong, because not every choice is free. Some have been prepared for you in advance. The screen may not know what you like, but it sees where you stop, what you re-watch, which image makes your finger slow down, which title you return to, and then it quietly makes an assumption. This is what you want. Yet curiosity and desire are not the same thing. Looking at something isn't the same as approving of it. A child might stop because they're scared, because they're surprised, because they don't understand. But the system doesn't see the emotion. It sees the duration, the click, the replay, and it reduces a complex moment within a person to a single signal. This is how the dark flow begins. It doesn't force a door open for you. It puts another one in front of you. A beauty video, you need to be more refined. A workout video, you need to be tougher. A joke, a challenge, a horror story, a conspiracy, anger. The content changes. The method remains the same. The next image demands a little more attention than the last. Because calm doesn't last long. Surprise lasts. Anger lasts. Fear lasts. Desire lasts. A system's purpose may not be to upset you, but it might be to keep you hooked, and sometimes both lead to the same place. While children are still learning which emotions belong to them, a screen can learn which of those emotions can be sustained the longest. That's why the issue isn't just bad content. The issue is that the direction of your attention can shift without you noticing. A child might consider something normal the next day that they hadn't even thought about the day before, because normal is just another name for repetition. An image disturbs you the first time, less so the 5th time. By the 20th time, it's just in the background. The human mind gets used to what repeats. An algorithm, however, may mistake this habituation for interest, and so the boundary slowly shifts. No one says, "I'm going to change you now." The change happens silently. The meaning of a word shifts slightly. A behavior becomes ordinary. A risk starts to seem funny. One body is not enough. One life is boring. Another person is an enemy. A child isn't transformed by a single video, but 1,000 small repetitions can reshape a world. To understand this, one must understand people before technology. People don't live by information alone. They live by comparison. They measure themselves against the faces of others. They laugh where the crowd laughs. They fear where the crowd fears. And a child doesn't always know who the crowd really is. There may be millions of images on the screen, but the few shown to them in that moment can feel like the whole world. This is where the feed ceases to represent reality. It begins to manufacture a reality. Not everyone sees the same world. Two children who open the same app may, a few weeks later, be living in completely different digital universes. One sees sports, the other sees horror. One sees humor, the other sees anger. And both may believe that what they see is normal for everyone. That's why the phrase, "that's how it is on the internet," is often meaningless. The internet isn't a single place. It's millions of corridors rebuilt anew for each user. Some are bright, some are not. When a parent looks at their child's screen, they might see just a single video. But the real question isn't about that video. What comes after it? Then what? And then what? Because the danger sometimes lies not in the content itself, but in the direction it takes. Where is a stream taking you? Is it expanding your world? Or is it amplifying the same emotion over and over again? Is it fueling your curiosity? Or is it confining it to a single fear, a single body, a single anger? It's impossible to know every video in advance to protect a child. New platforms emerge, new trends arise, new words are used, but the direction is readable. Is the child more restless? Are they comparing themselves more? Are they having trouble letting go at night? Are they returning to the same type of content over and over again? Are they using what they see as a measure of real life? These may be more valuable indicators than screen time, because 2 hours isn't always just 2 hours. An hour spent learning isn't the same as an hour spent being dragged into fear. Numbers don't tell the whole story, direction does. And sometimes the most important question isn't how much did you watch, it's what stayed with you after watching. This question isn't a filter, but it's where the dark side of the stream first becomes visible. A stream doesn't have to look dark to be dangerous. Sometimes it's very bright, colourful, fast-paced, funny, and that's exactly why people don't realise where they're going. As a child returns to the same types of videos, the system learns something new. Which emotion is holding them there, which image makes them pause, which sentence brings them back. Then the content isn't just shown, it's tailored, a little closer, a little more personal, a little more powerful. This is where choice and guidance blur together. The child still moves their finger themselves, but they haven't laid out the paths that appear before them. That's why free will and curated choices aren't the same thing. There might be 100 doors in a hallway, but if only 3 are lit, people usually choose those. Digital feeds sometimes work this way too. They tell you they're offering you the whole world, but the world you see might be just a small slice selected for you. If a child doesn't know this, they might mistake the repeating images for reality itself. Everyone looks like this. Everyone lives like this. Everyone does this. These statements are dangerous because everyone is often made up of just a few hundred videos. The crowd gathered by an algorithm is not the whole of society. Then the comparisons begin. Their own body, their own life. They are measured against the curated images on the screen. Real life seems slower and more ordinary, yet most of life is worth living, not just showing off. If a child doesn't learn this distinction, their focus may shift not just to entertainment, but to identity as well. I am what I watch. I am as valuable as I am liked. I exist only to the extent that I am seen. This is where the screen ceases to be merely a device. It becomes a mirror, but a mirror does not always reflect the truth. Sometimes it shows only the face, amplified by the algorithm. At this point, parents may blame the phone. They may delete the app, they may set time limits, but simply closing the door does not erase the thoughts forming inside. Why did the child return to that content? What did they feel? What did they find? Why couldn't they stop? A ban imposed without asking these questions may simply make the behavior invisible. Because people learn to circumvent bans they don't understand, but a boundary they understand, they may one day carry within themselves. That's why the conversation shouldn't start with, "Don't watch this." It can start with, "How does this make you feel? Why might it keep showing this to you over and over again? Could the life in this video be real, or is it just a selected snippet?" These questions do not interrogate the child. They create a small distance between the child and the stream of content. Sometimes that distance is safety, pausing for a second, not mistaking the crowd's direction for your own. Some streams run on fear, some on anger, some on a sense of lack. It presents you with a problem. Then, to sell a solution, it convinces you that the problem lies within you. You're not beautiful enough. You're not strong enough. You're not brave enough. A child might not hear these sentences directly, but hundreds of images can silently convey the same message. A single video is innocent, but repetition creates an atmosphere, and when people live within that atmosphere, they forget to question the air around them. That's why families need to look not only at what content is off limits, but also at which emotions are being reinforced. Is the child constantly angry? Have they started to feel ashamed of their own body? Do they keep reaching for their phone over and over before going to sleep? Are they drifting away from their real friends and finding comfort only in online feeds? These aren't proof of a definite danger, but they can indicate that the direction has changed, and direction comes before numbers. A screen time report might say 2 hours, but it doesn't tell you what's growing within those 2 hours. Another danger is challenges. When a behavior is repeated a million times, it can start to seem safe. When a child says, "Everyone's doing it," they might actually be describing the feed they're seeing. But popularity isn't safety. Being watched isn't truth. Being liked isn't value. If a crowd is running toward a cliff, numbers don't make the path safe. A child should hear these words not when they're scared, but during calm moments, because boundaries aren't taught in a crisis. They are internalized before a crisis. And perhaps the most important distinction is this: you cannot control everything a child sees, but you can prevent what they see from becoming the only reality in their mind. You do this not just with rules, but with the ability to compare other sources, other people, real life, real bodies, real failures. You make the life the screen doesn't show visible, because the power of the dark stream lies in its ability to make the entire world seem as if it were just that. The way to break it isn't to turn off the light, it's to open other windows. You don't have to turn off every screen to stop the dark stream. First, you need to see where the stream begins. Which video does a child pause on? After which content do they become restless? Which phrase do they repeat? Which image do they start using as the measure of real life? Because the problem isn't just what they watch, it's what stays with them after they've watched it. The first line of defense isn't a block list, it's the habit of watching together. Sometimes the child starts the stream, sometimes the parent does. A video is chosen, then we discuss not just the content, but the system itself. Why did this come up? Is it because we watched this? What else like this has come up? What is this video trying to make us feel is missing? Does this person really live like this? Or are they just showing us a selected moment? These questions don't take the screen away from them. They put a mind in front of the screen. The second layer is recognizing the stream's memory. Viewing history, search history, accounts you follow, likes, subscriptions. These aren't just the past. They're the raw material for the next video. If the feed is disrupted, sometimes you need to clean it up. Unfollow unnecessary accounts, click "Not interested" on unwanted videos. Review your search and viewing history. Enable age-appropriate settings. Turn off autoplay. Reduce notifications. These are small steps, but small steps can change the direction. Still, no setting is permanent. Platforms change, menus change, algorithms change. That's why you should learn the principle, not just the child-friendly settings. What's shown to you over and over again doesn't have to be your reality. What's popular doesn't have to be true. What keeps you glued to the screen doesn't have to be good for you. These 3 sentences will outlast the apps themselves. The third layer isn't time, it's rhythm. When does the phone go silent? During meals? Before going to sleep? In the first few minutes of the morning? If a child opens a screen during every spare moment, the flow may have begun to control not just the content, but also the silence. Sometimes people need to get bored, to think, to dream up their own imagination for a few minutes that an algorithm doesn't fill. Because when the void disappears, people hear their own voices less. That's why certain hours can be preserved not as punishment, but as quiet spaces. The device stays outside, the world goes on, and the child sees this. When the stream stops, life doesn't stop. The fourth layer is creating a counterbalance. True friendship, movement, sports, creating, reading, talking with family, building something. The richer life is outside the screen, the harder it is for a single stream to take over their identity. Because a mind left with nothing to fill the void is easily swayed. A mind with its own world can make comparisons. That's why protection isn't just about shrinking the digital world. It's about expanding the real world. One day your child might show you a video. It might be disturbing. If your first reaction is to dismiss it, they might not show you the next one. But if you watch it together, the door stays open. Could this really be true? What isn't this video showing? Why might this person have posted it? What would be the real-life consequence of this behavior? A child won't always give the right answer to every question, but if they learn to ask questions, they won't be left alone in the flow of it all. Some content, however, isn't innocent enough to be brushed off with a casual conversation. Age-inappropriate sexual content, calls for self-harm, dangerous challenges, violence, hate, fraud. A child who encounters such content should not be punished. The content is blocked. If necessary, it is reported to the platform. Similar recommendations are removed, and most importantly, the child is not made to feel guilty for being able to describe what they saw, because shame is the second door that the dark feed loves. The first gateway is curiosity, the second is silence. You don't have to reset all your devices today. Open a single feed. Look at the last 20 videos. Does the same emotion keep repeating? The same body? The same fear? The same anger? The same promise? Then ask the child just one question. How do you feel after watching these videos? The answer sometimes reveals more than all the screen time reports are combined, because the issue isn't how many minutes have passed, it's what kind of world is being created within those minutes. In this recording, I didn't explain how the algorithm works, so I left you with something more important, the way to recognize when the stream starts carrying you away. You can find more about digital family safety, algorithmic streams, and protective systems at SHORT.LOG. I am the architect. We'll meet again in the next recording. When that day comes, you'll understand why these recordings exist. System status, active protocol, 027, complete. Next protocol, 38, status, active.